Okay, you're really not going to believe the timing on this.
Oh, yeah.
If you've been maybe dreaming of a Maui getaway for Mother's Day next year, that's May 2025, the news on car rental prices is, well, it's genuinely surprising.
How so?
We're seeing economy cars advertised like around $169 for a whole week.
Wow. Okay.
And even Jeeps, you know how Jeeps usually cost a bit more there? They're hovering around $305 a week.
305 for a Jeep for a week.
Yeah. And the best part, those prices, they include all the taxes and fees, right, from Kahului Airport OGG.
That is remarkable, especially for Jeeps. A price drop like that, it really suggests something's changing in the market dynamics there. Definitely worth looking into if you're planning a trip.
Exactly. And, well, that's what we're doing in this deep dive today. We've got some really interesting data on Maui car rental prices right as of now, May 11th, 2025.
Okay.
So our mission really is to figure out why these prices are so low, maybe get a sense of where they're headed soon, and, give you some useful info if Maui's on your radar.
Sounds good. Let's get into those specifics then.
Yeah, so let's dive in. What are the details on these low prices?
All right, so looking at the advertised lowest prices, this is for one-week rentals starting next week, May 12th, 2025, picking up at Kahului Airport. It's not just one or two car types getting discounts.
Right.
An economy car from Payless is at that $169 mark you mentioned. That hasn't changed from last week.
Okay, it's stable there.
And a midsize, also from Payless, is holding steady too at $210.
But wait, those Jeeps you reacted to,
Yeah.
down by almost a third. Did I read that right?
You did. A massive 29% decrease. It brings the weekly price down to $305 with Thrifty.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the kind of drop that, makes you look twice.
It really does. And we are seeing some movement the other way, too. Convertibles, for instance, they've gone up about 12%. So they're sitting at $476 a week with 6T. Kind of the priciest option right now in this snapshot.
Okay, so not everything is dropping.
No. Standard SUVs, though, they're holding steady at a pretty good price. $225 a week from Payless.
That's attractive.
And if you need more seats, minivans have also seen a big drop. Down 23% to $247 a week again with Payless.
Interesting, another big drop.
But the larger 7-seat SUVs, they've actually jumped up. 18% increase to $378, also Payless.
So, okay, some really big swings there, especially Jeeps down, minivans down, but convertibles and the big SUVs up. What's the story behind all this? It feels unusual for this time of year, right before Mother's Day.
Well, there are a few things sort of coming together here. First off, May in Maui, it's typically what they call a shoulder season.
Right between the big rushes.
Exactly. After spring break, before the summer crowds really hit. So there's usually a dip in visitor numbers anyway.
And lower demand means lower prices usually.
Usually, yeah. But it's downward pressure on prices. That's the normal part.
Okay, but you said there was more to it this year.
Absolutely. So you've got that already kind of softer demand of the May shoulder season. But it's being made even more pronounced by the slow recovery from the Lahaina wildfires back in August 2023.
Ah, right. That had a huge impact.
Huge. And tourism just hasn't fully bounced back yet. It's taking time.
Makes sense. And isn't there also something about the wider economy affecting travel? I feel like I've read things about that.
You're spot on. Yeah, there have been quite a few reports, different news outlets talking about a general weakening in consumer confidence in the U.S., economic uncertainty.
So people are maybe cutting back on vacations.
Exactly. When people feel a bit less secure financially, that discretionary spending, things like holidays, rental cars, that tends to be one of the first things to get trimmed.
So it's like a perfect storm almost.
Yeah.
Seasonal dip, wildfire recovery, and economic jitters, all pushing prices down right now.
Pretty much, yeah.
So, okay, if someone's thinking about a trip, maybe the next few weeks or even months,
Yeah.
what should they expect? Because these low prices are tempting, but will they last?
This is where it gets a little tricky. We're seeing signals that seem to point in different directions. When you look at the online booking systems right now, today, May 11th, they're actually forecasting prices to go up for rentals booked in advance for the coming weeks.
Really? How much?
Well, for example, a one-week rental starting next week, booked today, might show around $160 if you go off airport, or $169 at OGG Airport itself.
Okay, that matches the current low prices.
Right. But if you look ahead, say booking now for the week of June 1st, the forecasts jump. Off airport is still lower, around $147, but at the airport, it's forecasted at $260.
Wow, quite a leap at the airport.
And by mid-June, the forecasts are around $217 off airport and $257 at OGG.
Okay, so that's a pretty big projected increase, especially at the airport. like over 50% more if you book 5 weeks out compared to just booking for next week. It makes you wonder if that old advice, book early, actually applies here.
That's exactly the question. And this is where looking at historical data is, well, really useful. We analyzed 5 years of Maui car rental prices back from 2013 to 2018.
What did that show?
What's fascinating is that historically, this predicted upward trend in prices booked in advance during May and early June, it often just doesn't happen, or not fully anyway.
Really? So the forecast might be wrong.
Based on that 5-year study, yes. Our analysis showed that last-minute rental prices during that time frame, they typically stayed low. Sometimes they even decreased further from mid-May into early June, right before summer really kicked in around mid-June. In fact, we found that last-minute prices were actually cheaper than the advanced reservation prices almost 90% of the time during those 5 years.
90%. That's huge. So all that pressure to lock in a car early could actually mean you end up paying more.
It's definitely a strong possibility, judging by those historical patterns. It often just comes down to supply and demand, right?
Okay.
If rental companies think demand will be high, they price their advance bookings higher. But if that demand doesn't quite show up as the dates get closer...
They've got cars sitting there.
Exactly. So they often cut prices last minute to get those cars rented out. It's that potential oversupply that can lead to those last-minute deals.
Right. Makes total sense. Fill the car, even at a lower rate.
Right.
Now, you mentioned some more recent trends, though, starting late 2024. Did those follow the history of last-minute savings?
Good point. That's an important distinction. More recently, yes, starting around mid-December 2024, we actually saw a different pattern for a while.
Yeah.
Advanced booking prices were actually increasing as the rental date got closer. There was this specific period, like January 12th to February 17th. The average last-minute price for an economy car at OGG was, get this, $152 a week, more than the price you'd have paid booking just 1 week ahead.
Whoa. Okay, so the complete opposite of the longer-term history. The market can definitely flip then.
It absolutely can. But here's the key thing for right now. Those current last-minute prices and the prices for booking just 1 week out, they are still below the prices being quoted if you try to book 5 weeks from now.
Oh, okay.
So that recent trend from the winter where last-minute prices shot up, that doesn't seem to be happening at this very moment.
Gotcha. So for the immediate future, at least, it feels like we might be back towards that historical pattern where waiting could save you money. What about specific holidays like Memorial Day coming up? Are prices spiking for that?
Well, initially, we did see prices for Memorial Day weekend bookings start to climb when people were booking further out.
Okay, typical holiday bump.
Yeah. But we've been watching those prices really closely for the last 3 weeks, and they've actually come down quite a bit. They dropped from a high of around $383 a week
Ooh.
down to about $220 a week. And today, they ticked up just slightly to $229.
That's still way down from $383. So those early Memorial Day price hikes kind of fizzled out.
Seems that way, yeah.
So what's your gut feeling? Where will those prices likely land for the holiday?
Given, how they've dropped recently and just the overall soft market conditions we're seeing in Maui, it feels likely that Memorial Day rental prices will probably stay around this current level, maybe fluctuate a little, but we're not expecting any big surges upwards at this point.
Okay, that's good news for anyone planning a last-minute-ish Memorial Day trip to Maui. Now let's talk about those savings again. You mentioned some real numbers for booking last minute right now.
Absolutely. So let's take the cheapest 1-week car rental starting tomorrow. If you had tried to book that exact same rental 5 weeks ago, the price quoted then was around $302.
Okay.
That price has dropped every single week since then. And today, the lowest advertised price is that $169 we talked about.
So the savings are?
It means someone booking right now, last minute, is potentially saving a pretty impressive $133 a week. That's like 44% less than booking 5 weeks ago.
44%.
Yeah. And even compared to just last week's price, which was $222, you're still saving $53 a week. That's about a 24% saving just by waiting 1 week.
Those are really significant savings. It definitely sounds like patience could pay off right now. But just to clarify, those specific numbers, the $133 saving, that was for the cheapest compact car, right?
That's correct, yes. That was for the absolute lowest price category we found. Now, we do expect the general trend of last-minute savings might apply to other types of cars, too.
But the exact percentages might differ.
Exactly. They might vary. But the main point, the overall message from the data right now is that last-minute bookings will likely keep being lower than advance prices for the next few weeks.
So the advice is?
If you've got some flexibility, maybe your plans aren't totally locked down, it could be smart to keep an eye on prices. And if you already have a booking that's way more expensive than these current rates, check if you can change or cancel it without penalty and maybe rebook.
Solid advice. Definitely actionable. Okay, another thing travelers always wonder about. Airport versus off-airport rentals. Is it cheaper to rent away from the airport in Maui? What's the deal right now?
Yeah, that's a common question. And generally speaking, off-airport rental places in Maui tend to have lower base prices.
Why is that usually?
It's mostly down to taxes and fees. They're typically higher for rentals right at the airport terminal. Plus, some companies might add a little convenience premium for picking up right there. We actually did a whole deep dive on this before. I think it was called, Is It Cheaper to Rent a Car at the Airport in Maui? Updated for 2024.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. Good stuff. But you said that usual pattern, cheaper off-airport, had been a bit weird recently.
Correct. Yeah, over this past winter and spring, we actually saw a period where things were flipped. Demand was surprisingly strong at some off-airport spots, and supply seemed limited, so in quite a few cases, the off-airport prices were actually higher than at the airport.
Huh. But now things are back to normal. Or closer to normal.
It looks like it, yes. For this current week, that usual pattern lower prices off-airport seems to be back for most types of vehicles.
Most. So there are exceptions.
There are a couple of notable ones, yeah. In our latest survey, we found zero availability for convertibles and also for those 7-seat SUVs at the off-airport locations we checked.
Okay, so you just couldn't get them off airport.
Right. And here's the interesting one, Jeeps. Because the airport rates for Jeeps are so low right now, that $305 deal we mentioned,
Yeah.
that's actually cheaper than the off-airport price for a Jeep currently. So that's an exception to the rule right now.
Wow, so that airport cheap deal really is looking like a standout bargain.
Yeah.
Good to know. And just for context, when was this airport versus off-airport data collected?
We gathered that data on May 12th, 2025. It was for a one-week rental starting that same day, and our survey covered 7 different vehicle categories, looking at 14 rental companies at OGG Airport and 8 companies at various off-airport spots.
Okay, comprehensive. So bottom line, if you want the absolute rock bottom price, probably check both airport and off-airport, right?
Sure.
Off-airport might generally be cheaper, but watch out for exceptions like Jeeps right now, and some cars might not even be available off-airport.
That's a good summary, yes. Always worth comparing.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit. We know Maui's cheap right now, but how does it compare to the other main Hawaiian islands? Is Maui usually the priciest, or is this a real shift?
That's a great comparison point. We did a quick check, looked at the lowest advertised one-week rental costs across the 5 big Hawaii airports, again for rentals starting this Monday, May 12th.
And the results.
Honolulu, H&L, came in at $237 a week, no change from last week. Maui's Kahului, OGG, is at that super low $165, also no change.
Okay, lowest so far.
Then Kauai Lihu Airport, LIH. This one's weird. It's showing $365. That's a huge jump, 71% up from last week.
Whoa, $365 on Kauai. Any idea why? That seems way out of line.
Honestly, at this stage, we don't have specific data explaining that massive jump on Kauai. It definitely looks like an outlier right now. Needs more investigation.
Okay, so setting Kauai aside for a moment, what about the Big Island?
Right. Kona Airport, KOA, is at $231, unchanged. And Hilo, ITO, is $265, just up slightly, 2%.
Okay, so even ignoring that strange Kauai price, Maui at $165 is significantly cheaper than anywhere else right now.
Absolutely. It's undercutting Honolulu and Kona, the next cheapest, by almost $70 a week.
Not $50. Checking my math. $237 minus $165, $72. $231 minus $165 is $66.
Wow, yeah, nearly $70 cheaper than the next options.
Exactly. So Maui OGG is clearly the price leader among the major islands at this moment.
So yeah, if Maui was even remotely on your list, these car rental prices are a pretty compelling reason to lean that way right now.
Okay, let's try and pull this all together. Then we've hit the low prices, the reasons why, the kind of confusing forecast, the comparison to other islands. What are the main things really driving these super low Maui prices right now?
It really feels like a convergence, doesn't it? We're seeing prices that are getting close to levels we saw right after the Lahaina wildfires when travel was heavily restricted. That's unusual.
So what are the key drivers again?
Number one is definitely the continued slow recovery of tourism on Maui after the fires. Visitor numbers just aren't back to where they were, and the Visitor Bureau data confirms that.
Okay, slow recovery.
Then number two, there seems to be less travel coming from Canada. That's usually a pretty important international market for Maui. It looks like a mix of maybe political factors and some airlines cutting back flights.
Right, the Canadian factor.
And number three is that broader economic picture in the U.S. we talked about. That uncertainty seems to be making people cautious, dampening consumer confidence, and leading to less spending on things like vacations.
So, yeah, local recovery issues, international travel shifts, and U.S. economic worries all hitting the Maui rental market at once.
That sums it up pretty well, yeah.
So, given that these factors don't seem like they're going away overnight,
Mm.
what's the overall outlook for Maui rental prices moving forward, say, through the summer and fall?
Well, considering these ongoing pressures, our expectation is that this softer rental car market in Maui is probably going to stick around,
Yeah.
likely through the summer, maybe into the fall too, at least until we get closer to the winter holiday season when demand traditionally picks up again.
That's quite a forecast. Suggests these better prices might not just be a blip, they could be here for a while.
Just so everyone knows the work behind this, where does all this price data come from?
Sure. Our main sources for checking current prices are sites like rentalcars.com and also rentals.mauicarental.biz. We've been tracking the lowest weekly price for economy cars methodically since way back in July 2023.
Right.
And then since July 2024, we expanded that. Now we track 7 different vehicle categories across 10 major rental companies just at Maui's main airport, OGG.
And the historical context.
Right. That comes from that 5-year study we mentioned, covering economy car prices from 2013 through 2018. That gives us really valuable long-term perspective.
So a lot of data crunching goes into this. Okay, let's wrap up this deep dive. Time for the key takeaways and maybe some actionable advice for you listening. What's the single most important thing people should take away from this conversation today? I'd say the main point is this. Right now, looks like a potentially excellent time to rent a car in Maui. Prices are unusually low. And it's because of this unique mix of things, seasonal patterns, the ongoing wildfire recovery impact, and those wider economic factors.
Okay, great opportunity potentially. And what should people do with that information? What's the action item?
Well, if you have any plans to travel to Maui coming up, definitely check the current rental car prices, like right now or very soon.
And if you already book?
If you already have a reservation, see how much you paid. If it's significantly more expensive than these current low rates, check your cancellation policy. If you can change or cancel without a big penalty, it's absolutely worth looking into rebooking at today's lower prices.
Makes sense.
And also, keep in mind what the historical data suggests. You might even get better deals booking closer to your travel date. So maybe don't feel rushed to book months out. Keep an eye on those last-minute offers, especially if your plans are flexible.
Fantastic, really practical advice there. Stay informed, compare prices, check your existing bookings, and maybe don't lock something in too early. Okay, finally, as always, something provocative to leave them thinking about.
How about this? Just consider how interconnected everything is. You've got a local event, it's like a wildfire on an island.
Right.
You've got maybe political stuff happening between countries affecting flights.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got these big, broad economic feelings across a whole nation. And all these seemingly separate things can actually come together and directly change the price you pay for something as specific as a rental car on your vacation thousands of miles away.
It really shows how, a ripple in one place can cause waves somewhere completely different. It makes you think about how sensitive these global systems really are.
Exactly. Just something to chew on.